And tonight we are focusing on the local elections of Gwinnett County. With me, we have a candidate for District 105. And before I get to that candidate, I want to introduce my producer, who's going to be your co-host tonight, Mrs. Yasendi Martin. Madam Producer, welcome to Focus on Liberia.
It's an honor to be here.
All right. And as our guest tonight, we have a mother, a grandmother, and also a resident of District 105. That's Donna McLeod. Donna, welcome to Focus on Liberia.
Thank you guys for having me.
All right. Donna is going to be running for District 105 on the Democratic Party ticket for Gwinnett County. She's a Democrat, of course. She's served as the Vice Chair of Community Outreach and Advocacy since 2008. She has been a grassroots organizer right here in Gwinnett County, registering new voters and educating Gwinnett County residents on local, county, state, and federal government processes. She's a small business owner and holds a degree in chemical engineering. Wow, that's huge. Welcome again, Donna, and to our viewers across the globe. We say welcome to Focus on Liberia. Tonight, we're going to be discussing the Georgia local elections, specifically for Gwinnett County. All right, so Donna, I say welcome, and our next guest is going to be Ms. Veronica Cope. She's the nominee for district judge, and she's going to be joining us in the second half of this show. But for now, I want to talk to our representative aspirant. Donna, briefly talk to our audience. Why are you here?
So I wanted to come here and I wanted to make sure that everybody has every information they need to vote and to participate in this representative democracy. I don't know if everybody knows that this is a republic, and a republic means that you have to actually participate in order for it to work. Besides the brief introduction, I was born in the island of Jamaica, but I grew up in Toronto, Canada, and I came here in 1998. The first thing I reacted to was the 2000 election of George W. Bush. And the reason why I reacted was because they had called the race in Florida for Al Gore. Yeah. And a few minutes later, they pulled maybe about 40 minutes later, they pulled that win for Gore and said it was unknown. And then, of course, we ran into the whole situation where the election got Chad in Florida, where they said there was hanging chads. Anyway, I didn't like that based on what I believe this country was supposed to be about. And so I was one of those people that actually ended up in Florida protesting Bush's inauguration. And I wasn't yet a citizen, so I'm sure they could have thrown me out. It took me about 7 years actually before coming to the States to get my green card. So I came here as a green card holder. And so the years went by, and I didn't think much about it. They swore in George W. Bush as president through the courts, which is really a violation of our Constitution, since the Constitution really says that the Electoral College is supposed to do it. And so having a court deciding that was completely wrong. But the years went by, and in 2004, I was watching the Democratic National Convention, and a young man came up on stage, and he was the most elegant person I've ever seen, the way he spoke and the way he just inspired people. And his name was, of course, Barack Obama. And so I said to myself that day, if he ever ran for president, I was going to be there on day one. And that's what I did. On day one, he announced in late 2007 that he was going to be run for president. And so I used to drive from Gwinnett County down to Atlanta. And I actually went on canvassing for him from the get-go. I remember when the first office I went to, there was only probably about 14 people in the office. 9 of the people that were in the office were actually from out of state. Only 5 of us was from the state of Georgia, and we got doors slammed in our faces because a lot of people were uncomfortable with his name being Barack Obama. Of course, they said it was Muslim. Which of course it's not. It's actually an Arabic name, but can't tell people that don't know nothing. Yeah. And so we went out, we forged along, and it was not until obviously he won Iowa that even African Americans would start looking at him and saying he's a real possibility for being president. So I was really galvanized by then Senator Barack Obama. And I was in North Carolina when this whole Reverend Wright issue had happened. And at that time, people were concerned that it might be a big setback for the senator. But he won that primary, and I actually knew from that point on that he would be president. And so I went on, and I wasn't, by the way, I'm not yet the citizen of the country yet. And so a few more years went by, and in 2012, he ran for a re-election. And I can tell you that I was really concerned about giving up my citizenship to Canada because of the healthcare issue. I was very concerned about that. And so because of that, I held off. In 2012, I became the national director for voter outreach for Black Women for Obama. And so I was in charge of making sure several of the states, actually we had about 28 states that had Black Women for Obama leadership in it. And my job was to make sure they had the information in order to get the voters out. And in 2012, I became a citizen of the United States of America. But unfortunately, I was unable to vote for him because they gave me my citizen after the November election. Right. But nonetheless, in 2016, I ran for State House Representative for the District of 105. And in 2015, they actually changed the lines for that district in order to dilute the African American vote in Gwinnett County and in that district. But I had the great honor of being endorsed by a sitting president, Barack Obama, in 2016. So I was amazed and, of course, incredibly grateful. And so we went on, of course, to not winning, but we lost by 222 votes, even though we had gone into the race with a 2,100 vote deficit. But we worked hard. We did what we needed to do. We went out there and made sure we asked people for their vote. And I don't know if everybody kind of understands the Voting Rights Act of 1965.
And we will get to that, Donna. But first, let me bring in my co-host. You see, you and our guest relations manager set this up. Why is it important that Donna is here today to tell us about elections? This being focused on Liberia. And we have Liberian residents, immigrant residents here in Gwinnett County. Your idea of why is it important that we have Donna on the show tonight?
Okay, so here's the reason. As all of you know, I'm an advocate. I like for my voice to be heard. I like for the immigrant community voices to be heard. This is a first generation African, let's say Jamaican American, okay? This opens doors, just like you rightfully stated, for Obama. Obama was the hope of the Black people in America. I remember him coming out, and when he made his announcement, people were like, this is not going to happen until 100 years from now. This country was not ready for it. Sure, we said we have had many Black men come before us that have represented us. This is a woman. This is a woman born in a foreign land. This is a woman who has devoted her time. We do need a voice. Politics is local, whether we believe it or not. You have to have people who understand your ills and your plaques, or the opportunity that can be awarded or be given or be merited. So we need somebody that speaks for us, that seeks our interests. Again, politics is local. It is important for Donna to be here to speak to the immigrants community so they'll understand when you vote, not just for the president, the local vote is really, really important. Those are the people who decide your fate, who decide what opportunities you can tap into or not tap into. So it is important for her to be here, for us to hear her out, to make a plea to the immigrant community, not just the Liberian community, but the Ghanaians, the Sierra Leonean, the Nigerians, the Korean, you name them, all of us, that we understand that it is important that we are represented also.
Right. Donna, here on Focus on Liberia, we'd like to start with the very basic. We are immigrant community right here in Gwinnett County, and you are one of us.
Yes.
How did you get to this point? Because if we come, we are focused on working and making money and sending money back home. And what changed? What prompted you to do what you're doing?
Again, I have the same as an immigrant, sending back home money to Jamaica because life hard. It's difficult. There's never enough money, and things are expensive. Inflation is high. So of course, I spent many years making sure that I was giving back to Jamaica, because I have family there. My mom was still there. I had brothers there. So that was very important to me. But I also realized that being in America means that I was paying taxes. And if nothing else matters to you, is the fact that you're being charged income tax, and if you own a property, your property taxes, and you also, whenever you buy goods and services, you're paying taxes. So if you should care nothing about elections and local, that's something that should motivate you to get out. If that doesn't motivate, I know a lot of people don't really bond to the fact that bloodshed was shed for this right to vote. But I put forward to you that the 13th Amendment in this Constitution that basically gave African Americans the freedom in this country, it is an amendment. It is a law, and laws can be changed. That's why we have to be vigilant at the state level, because in this state, before 1865, in this state, it was legal to own a human being as a slave, because that was a state law. That's why state elections are so important. Going into the present, the fact that you put a tag on your car on your birthday, that's a state law. Your schools that your kids go to, how they're being funded, what kind of resources are in those schools, that's state. That's not federal. That's almost all state. So I think that it's important for people to understand why all politics is local. Your roads that you drive on, especially your roads to back and forth to school and work and stuff, those are all, again, state. And I think a lot of people think that, I'm going to wait for 4 years and vote for the president because the president's going to do everything for me. There is an election at the federal level. There's elections at the state level. The federal level only gets involved in the state if the state actually violates a federal law. Otherwise, the law remains at the state. So a state can make a law and no president can do anything about it. No Congress can do about it, only the state. So it's important for us to be very vigilant about what's going on in your state, what's going on. And of course, Veronica's going to be here to talk about the judicial branch, which is a branch that people kind of ignore a lot because they don't really understand how it works. Right. But as a legislator, which is the job that I'm seeking, I'm going to be making the laws that a judge will have to enforce. So you hope you put people in office that are going to make good laws, because those laws are going to affect you. I actually ran into a lady who was talking to me about her son. Her son had a cardiac arrest. Her name is Michelle, and her son is Nick Blakely. And what she wanted to do was to just basically talk to the local representative, because that's who's going to affect her anybody else knowing about why her son had this cardiac arrest. And she had gotten a bill, and all the bill was basically saying was that it was going to give information to athletic departments in high schools to let them be aware that if a child complains about having dizziness or not feeling well, that they would at least let that child sit out until they got clearance from the doctor. That's all the bill says. It was just really was an educational, and it was shot down by Cagle. He's running for Casey Cagle. He knocked it down because he was upset at the author of the bill, because the author of the bill introduced a marijuana bill, which he didn't like. So he thought he would just shoot that down to make the author of the bill mad. So this is the kind of folks that we have in the State House. And so that's why it's important for us to know who we're electing.
Right. I think a week ago I was in California, and that's to the point of state laws versus the federal law. And my company, we have an office in California. It was an eye-opener for me to find out that in California, they take paternity leave. And we have a friend, a workmate, who took like a month off. And they also have their leave to roll over. Okay, so it really occurred to me that these laws are different. And based on where you are, you want to effect change that's going to impact you, because these things impact you directly.
Right. Directly. Your state laws affect you almost immediately. I think just recently they passed a law where you can no longer text and drive, and that's immediate. Once the law passes, your campus carry was another bill that became law That means that kids can carry guns. And a lot of our students, 30% of our students are on medication or drugs that they shouldn't probably be holding any kind of guns.
So Donna, let me ask you this. What would be your message or your appeal to the immigrant community? I mean, we have some other issues during the Katrina time here where I think you spoke of it earlier, where certain people felt disenfranchised. How are you appealing to these people to come back on the table, or other nationality who do not look like you, but they're also immigrants? What are you doing to reach out to them to make them feel comfortable that you also are going to be their voice or voices?
So one of the things that, again, being a legislator, that's the power of legislation, right? So you have people that are having issues right now with immigration. And immigration is basically federal. But we can also make sure that we put pressure from the states, because remember, each of the state elect each of the federal representatives, right? Mm-hmm. Or your senators. That's a state job, everyone in the state. So if you want change as an immigrant, first of all, you want to make sure you become a citizen so you can have a voice. That is one of the things that we talk to our communities about, is just making sure that you actually become a citizen. Once you become a citizen, you register to vote, and then you vote, because the power lies in the vote. So I have a saying that I've made up personally. It's called knowledge. It says knowledge is the most powerful thing you give to yourself, but the vote is the most important thing you give to each other. And so as immigrants, we've got to seize the power that we have in that vote. The only thing that can change things, crying and holding each other and moping about it is not what we need. We need to organize, really know how we make change happen. So, having change be done in the United States has never come easy. We've seen that. Most of the time, a lot of times it's come through bloodshed. But I'm hoping that we're a little bit more involved than having to create bloodshed. So one of the tools that we have at our disposal is that vote. And so as anyone who's interested in the immigration fight right now, voting is your only option, because you have to make sure you put people in place that are going to look out for the best interests of people that are coming here that will support you. There's not a lot of other ways. There are organizations and other civil groups that you can join, but at the ultimate part of it is to get laws that actually support what you want. No matter what it is, you need the laws on the book to support it. Whether it's the slavery, where they're taking people in basically modern day slavery. All of that is based on laws.
So let me say this. America is UN, right? United Nations, because they support and give literally all of the financial support, although there are other people involved. So how do you being elected impact that? Because let's say majority of us that call ourselves third world country are part of the UN, and supports come from there. You'll be in the House, sometimes trickle down to that. Can you speak to it just a little?
In the House, so, okay, based on, once again, the power comes from the state. All state has a power in whatever vote, right? So if you're talking about the UN, at the end of the day, what are each of the 50 states doing in order to empower the UN, right? And when the message you send to that support is who you put in office, is actually who you elect. So if I want more support given to the UN, right now we have a president that's basically used every single disparaging thing to talk about people that come from the third world country or even the UN. But that's because he was the one put in office through the Electoral College. He's the one who is the president right now. And by just that sheer fact, he has that pulpit, that bully pulpit, to say this stuff. If you don't want that, then you have to basically start looking at who your candidates are and who is you're going to be voting on to become the leaders in your state or in your country. And so at the root, I'm a very root cause person. I'm an engineer by profession. And for the last probably 14 years, I've been doing consulting. And one of the things that I've been doing is to really get to root cause of issues. When something comes into my clients that is causing somebody else a problem as a consumer, I have to figure out why it happened, not just fix it, put a Band-Aid on it, but why did it really happen? Everything starts at that base.
At local level.
That's at local level.
So let's look at, you are running as a state representative. what are the other jobs available, or what are the other offices that people run for? Because if I have people in the community now, what are those areas that they need to vote people into office?
Also, you've got your mayoral races, your city elections, you got city post elections, you've got mayors and city city councilors. All of those folks have to be voted on, and you have the power to put those folks in office. And this state actually is very complicated. And if you can bear with me for a minute. So the state of Georgia is, of course, its own body. You got an executor, which is the governor. And then inside that, you have a legislative body, which is one of the positions that I'm trying to get for. But inside each county, you have commissioners. And then you have the chair for the commission. Then you have, in Gwinnett County, there's four chairpersons for our district. Inside of that, you also have your House district, which I'm in one of the House districts that I'm running for. And then on top of that, you have a school board district. You have a congressional district, and all these are different numbers. You have a different congressional district. Then you have a state senator. And then, of course, there's 2 elected state senators that represent you federally. So it's very confusing, but it's important for you to take the time to at least kind of understand this, because at the end of the day, it's impacting your pocketbook. Because anytime you're paying taxes, that's your pocketbook.
Right. That's great. That's great. So now we are here. How does your election to the State House impact the immigrant community, especially the Liberian community? What do we get?
So one of the things that I'm running on is healthcare. That is universal to everyone. I can't tell you how many people I've run across where this has cost them almost everything that they own, trying to maintain a family member that's ill. And all we have to do in this state is actually expand Medicaid for right now. Expanding Medicaid to all our thing will impact the immigrant community more than anyone else, especially Blacks who have a lot of hypertension. So I think that, expanding Medicaid, I'd like to see universal health care, my personal opinion, but we have to start in a way that we can get buy-in a lot of times, because this country is representative democracy. It has 3 branches of government. There's checks and balances. Everybody doesn't go into the Congress or into the state houses all thinking alike. So it's important for us to make sure that we're given it. But healthcare is important. If we expand Medicaid, which is something that the governor of this state could have done a long time ago, but did not. But we need a person who believes that expanded Medicaid is important to be in the office in order to vote on it, in order for it to become law for everybody. So healthcare is the one that affects all immigrant thing and the American population. So this is very important. Anyone who lives in my district can benefit from healthcare. Education, again, most of us come here because we come here for opportunity, right? We come here because we want our kids to have the opportunity. We want good school system. That's another fight, because public education is one that's being basically assaulted right now. And we need to have a place where kids can go to school, no matter what their income level or what zip code they live in, for them to have a good education. We need to make sure that our kids are not being marginalized because they're taking public money out of public school system to go into charter schools. If parents want an option like that, they should pay for it. But as long as we're putting money into public schools, I think it should go strictly into the public school system. So education is a big part of our immigrant. I know that when I was growing up, other than eating food, education was right there. If you Jamaicans are very proud people, and then food is top of the list. But education, we really emphasize education above almost anything else. We really, in our home, you talk about education. We actually praise you when you you do well in school, which is not common all the time in North America. But you are a star if you are having your grades are A's all the time. So it's just a different mentality. So so education is important, and making sure that our kids, when they're finished high school, having that full scholarship. If Hope can give them full scholarship with the Hope the Hope grants. The other thing is making sure that our kids know that there are other options like skill. Living in a home and living and going into buildings are not magic. Somebody actually has to build them. We need trades. We need people that are going to be getting into trades. And the immigrant population has been really good at that kind of stuff. And we need to encourage our folks to keep going through this. There's good money in it, and plus it's needed. No human being can just live in the grass areas anymore. We've kind of evolved from living nomadically. So we depend on people having that ability to make sure that they are having the place built up properly by engineers and people that can do this, the general labor. And of course, I'm also running on transportation in this district because Gwinnett County is a parking lot, a pure parking lot. And it's unacceptable that we spend 2-3 hours sitting in traffic. It's just unacceptable. And this affects all of us because most of us that live in Gwinnett is because we have, a lot of do quite well. Mm-hmm. And we live up here because we want this. So even though we're immigrants, we're doing pretty well.
We are.
Yes. And so the things that affect us is things that are practical that affects everybody else. But the immigrant community has always been ones that see opportunity.
Right.
So one second, Donna. Donna, speak a little more about their Medicaid, because majority of, and I'm speaking personally, politics is local and it affects us. We have a lot of older or elderly people who did not have the opportunity to live here long enough to work and pay into the system. So when Donald Trump took over, some of them, the food stamp were cut. Their Medicare were reduced. We hear that some of us, and Stephanie would tell you, sometimes we go to the food bank, pick up food to drop it off to them. Let's emphasize that, because majority of them did not just get here when they have children here, but their children have their children too. So if you can speak to that a little bit and kind of break it down for them so they'll understand.
Okay.
Please. Mm-hmm.
So let me tell you a little bit about my personal story. I really believe that people shouldn't have to choose between medicine and food. That is morally bankrupt. My mom was living with me for 3 years here in Georgia, and I was paying $379 a month on her health care alone. Yes. The thing is, in this state, they wouldn't even give us any benefit at all because she came up later, so she wasn't entitled. So now I'm actually working on her becoming a citizen in order to start getting some of the benefits. But once again, we go back to the basic root. When you allowed somebody to be elected president, because some of us did not vote, and we said we stand out, we stood back and said, you know what, this is too much for me. This is too chaotic. I can't decide. Hillary's got to get locked up, or some silly reason. When you did that, you actually forfeited your family's right to good health care, because you're getting somebody making a decision on your behalf because you didn't stand up you didn't do your part. Thank you.
One reason Africans here in Georgia don't vote so well, Georgia is a red state. And so my vote had no impact. Like, for instance, I live in a place called Brasserton that is predominantly white, and everyone voting for Trump. So because of that, people stay back and don't vote because they think that their vote has no impact. And as far back as 1992, Georgia was being controlled by Democrats. You have the House, the Senate, and also the executive mansion being controlled by Democrats. So what do you tell people who say, well, my vote is not going to count because this is a red state and everybody is going to vote Republican anyway, and I'm Democrat?
So let me get back a little bit of history. So in 2010, so Senator Veronica became president in 2008 and inaugurated in 2009. 2010, we had what they call a midterm election, like we're in the middle right now of. 2018 is also a midterm election. And many people, in fact, only 37% of people showed up to the polls. And so what happened in that time frame, and that has been going on for a few years before, it just seemed to be climatic in 2010. But prior to that, what had happened was the Republicans had basically, redrawn lines. So they basically
redistricted,
gerrymandered districts in order to constantly be the ones to win. It is not that Georgia is a red state. Georgia is probably more purpley blue state. But what happened is the Republicans will basically draw lines to dilute votes. I am the victim of one of those, that as well, because what they did in 2015, and I was going to go back to that. In 1965, the Voting Rights Act came out. There was a section called Section 5 of the Voting Rights Act, and that section basically said that anyone in the states like Georgia, Mississippi, Alabama, and all these southern states, if they were going to do anything to elections, they had to get pre-clearance from the federal government. Well, in 2013, that section was struck down by the Supreme Court, which allowed now for states like Georgia to start doing their own kind of gerrymandering. And so they draw the lines differently. What they did was take out some of the African-American vote in Lawrenceville and added Decula and Bethlehem to the district and flooded it with more white votes so that it would look like it was still red when it really technically was already trending Democrat. And they took it. So I want people to understand why Georgia seems that way. But the good thing about Georgia is this is not a electoral college. Your vote, every vote counts. So I don't care if you live in Brazelton, if you come out and you vote for Democrats, the Democrat will get the vote. So it's not like it's an electoral college vote. It's almost like a popular vote where every vote counts. Mm-hmm. It's important for us to understand just the mentality. So one of the things about perception, right? Mm-hmm. And perception sometimes gets bought up by a lot of people. Mm-hmm. And if you perceive it to be that way, so one of the things that in Gwinnett County, there was a perception that it was red. But in 2016, Gwinnett County actually voted for Hillary Clinton.
Yes, we did.
Okay, so here's what the issue was in Gwinnett County, was that there was candidates on the ballot, mostly Republicans, and they weren't being challenged. What we did in 2016 was said we're going to make a concerted effort to start putting people up to run against those candidates, the incumbents, mm-hmm. that were not being challenged all these years. And we changed that. We did that, and by doing that, we actually brought up more voters. In 2018, we made the Atlanta Journal-Constitution as well as the Gwinnett Post, because the Democrat has almost completely filled each spot that an incumbent Republican sits in. There's a challenger, and that is going to push the vote, because guess what? There are more candidates basically saying, I need you to come out in those districts. And the people are going to say, oh my God, there's actually a Democrat in my district. Yes. And it changes the mentality, because perception is part of the problem. And as you change the perception, because now people realize that the county is blue. It's blue presidentially. It's not yet blue locally.
All right. Donna, we are getting some questions from Facebook. And if you are just joining us, this is Focus on Liberia. Tonight we are focusing on the Georgia local elections. Our guest is Donna McLeod, sorry about that. And she's running for district number 105 as a state representative. In our second half, we'll have an attorney of law, Veronica. She's running also for superior judge in Gwinnett County. So she's going to be on. But now, Donna, there's a question here. Is T. Wendy Thompson said, are you still going to be our friend if you win? Because people are used to going to canvass, and after they win the elections, they turn their backs.
First of all, so let me just say this straight up. I'm always going to be a friend because I'm first a mom, and I'm a sister, I'm an aunt, and I'm a good friend. And any one of my friends will vow for that. But this is not my responsibility after this too. It's also your responsibility.
Thank you.
You will have my number when I have you. You will have a contact. All you have to do is Google Donna McLeod, state representative, and you will have a contact number. It is your job to also keep me accountable. I'm going to be doing my job, but I also need, if something is going on that I need to know, you need to call me. Most of the folks don't even know who their representative is, who's their council people. It is time for us to take responsibility for that part as well, This is called a representative democracy. It doesn't mean one person does it all. It means all of us are in it together. And if we sync, we should be syncing together. And 63% of turnout in a federal election, by the way, that was Barack Obama's election in 2008. The highest turnout was about roughly 63%. And if you ask students in school, 63% is not a passing, it's a fail. And 37%, oh, well, you might as well, in Jamaica, they call you dunce. So I'm just wanted to let everybody know this is your job as well. I have a job and you have a job. Right now, my job is to persuade you to vote for me. And when I do it, I also have a responsibility to hear your voice, because that is exactly what I am. I'm just your voice. If I don't know what you want me to say or do, I can't do it. So I'm also putting that back on you and saying, are you going to be there for me?
Oh, wow. All right. That's sharp. You know, something you may not know, we come from Liberia, most of us, where we ask our representative to do stuff. And so that, so you should understand that we'll be asking you to do
Absolutely.
stuff for us.
Yeah.
All right. And if you join us again, we are focusing on our local elections. This is Donna. Donna is running for state representative. So Donna, tell me, there are other Liberians who will want to run for office. Okay.
Like me right here.
Right. Okay. Our producer is going for the council. What are the steps, or what do we need to do if I want to run for any of those offices? So tell us the process.
Okay, so one of the first thing I always tell, and Veronica will tell you, one of the first things is always get buy-in from your friends and your family and your community, because it's tough, it's hard, it is a hard thing, and people start looking at you differently. Expectations go up. You need to make sure you take care of your health, because the process can be very long and tedious. And then you want to do is start getting people, all the people that used to say, oh, I love you, you're great, you're awesome, you're fantastic. Yeah, all of those people, they need to step up and help.
Right.
Okay, so you want to start building your volunteer community. Unfortunately, it does take money to run campaigns. I personally think it's not my primary source. I think the primary source is having people that really believe in you, because you get energy from those folks, and then when they believe in you, they stand by you, and that's more priceless than money. But you need money because you need to get your message out, whether it's through flyers like this one, or on radio, or newspaper, or whatever. You need to get the message out. You need to be able. And the other thing is the hard job. I'm an Obamanite. We grassroots organize. We get to the doors, we knock on doors, because guess what? That's where the people are, not on TV sets. They are at their door. And once you go to their door and actually have a conversation with somebody and look them in the eye, and they say they're going to vote for you, they take the vote for you.
Yeah,
that's the truth. So those are the processes of really making sure that you get yourself together if you want to run for office, and you have to be serious about it. And you have to also know why you're running. Don't run because, oh, I might get some fame. There's no fame in it. If you did it wrong, you're going to look really, really awful. But I think the most important part is to know that you are going to be serving people. That's the job of representation or any kind of government work, is that you're in the service of the people that are paying you. Because technically, all of you are my boss. You will be my boss because you basically pay for my salary. You pay for the government to run. You are actually the one in control, not me.
Right.
Or anybody else elected.
We're going to have Veronica in studio in a minute. So, Madam Producer, if you have any last question or last word for Donna.
So Donna, and I would say that, first of all, I need to speak to the community, people of the Liberian community, West Africa, North Africa, East Africa, Asia, wherever you come from. I know we all came from somewhere. First, second generation American. I think we need our voices to be heard. We need to come together and vote for this young lady. I think she has what it takes to help be our voices, to speak up for us. But she can't do that if the opportunity is not given to her. I'll give you a common example. In 200 years, we have an opportunity as African to have a day at the Capitol once a year in March. We don't even come out. So we need to come out. If you expect your voices to be heard, if you expect change to be made, the change starts with you. It starts with me. We have to take the first step. And when we do that, we empower whoever represents us to go out and do what she needs to do. Donna, it's really nice meeting you.
Really nice
it is powerful to see a fellow community organizer, a woman, to take the steering and say, I can drive. Drive. Yes, you can drive. And we will be there. We will knock at doors for you. I did that the whole of Obama first and second campaign because I believe in him. I believe in you. I believe in Miss Corp. And I believe you guys, this is the beginning to open the way. But let's say this, Michelle said, when the door is open, please leave it wide open.
It will. So I promise you. I'm Jamaican too. You can come on in and
thank you.
And just being part of that community, I actually did my genealogy, and I have 26% Congolese, 16% Ghanaian, 16% Nigerian, 9% Mali. And then there was a little bit 13% European.
So she's all over West Africa.
I am.
That's your daughter, yeah.
I am your daughter.
I am. Right. If you were welcoming you in Ghana, we'll say Akwaba.
Akwaba.
All right. Thank you. Okay, now we'll be switching seats and we'll take a short break to bring in Veronica. But before that, go ahead.
I just wanted to let people know you can go to my website, www.electdonnamcleod.com. That's DONNA, elect first, ELECT, DONNA. MCLEOD.com, and you can find me on Facebook at Vote Donna McLeod and on Twitter at Vote Donna McLeod. So I think that it's important for you to keep up with me as well and just see what I'm doing. That's one way to make sure that you're keeping track of me as well. And I make this promise that I am taking this job on in service, not for any other reason. So I appreciate this.
So Donna, how does those who do not live in Georgia to be able to vote for you, how do they help? In contributions and all of that.
So you can go to the website to give contribution. If you are an American citizen and you're living outside, we have absentee ballot applications. So you can actually request a ballot to be sent to wherever you are in the world, and it can be sent back here and your vote can be counted.
Thank you.
Right.
Oh, I would like to say.
We'll still have you.
Okay.
We'll still have you.
Okay, Miss Cole.
I need to stop sleeping.
Oh, I was gonna put in. You want Veronica to switch? I was gonna put
How are you?
Train.
Train.
I think I'll be okay. I was fine up until just now.
What's the song? There's some water. What's that, Veronica? What's that train? That song like with the train and people get ready. The train coming.
Get on there. Something train
to get on. People get.
You don't need no baggage. You just get on.
You all right? Yeah, I'm just going to try to step on it.
All you need is faith.
Get another event? Yes.
Don't need no ticket. You just thank the Lord.
All right, welcome back to Focus on Liberia. As I said before, we are focusing on the local Georgia elections. In our first segment, we were speaking with Donna McLeod, who's running for the state representative right here in Gwinnett County. That is District 105. Our second guest is Ms. Veronica Cope. Veronica, welcome to Focus on Liberia.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. And Veronica is running for district judge?
Gwinnett County Superior Court Judge.
Right. That's the judge for Gwinnett County Superior Court. And Veronica is an attorney with over 15 years of experience in civil litigation and criminal defense. And she's as a civil litigation attorney for 9 years. She gained a wealth of knowledge and experience in the areas of commercial litigation, insurance defense. Those are all our areas.
Yes.
Insurance and plenty personal injury and family law. Right. So, and you are tell us something about this or superior court judge. What does that mean?
Sure. So your superior court judge is the superior court is the highest level at the county level for court. The superior court judge hears cases involving felonies as well as domestic cases involving your child support, your divorce, your adoption. And superior court judges also hear cases related to equity and property. And because it is the highest court at the county level, superior court judges also hear appeals from the lower courts.
Right. Are you are originally from North Carolina?
I am. I was born and raised in a very small town called Tarboro, North Carolina. It probably could fit in this room that we're in right here. But that's home, and I love home. I've been here in Atlanta since 2001 after graduating from the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill for law school.
Right. You went to law school. So unlike Donna, who's a Democrat, I believe for a judge, you are not affiliating with any political party.
That's correct. Judges' races are nonpartisan. There's a good reason they're nonpartisan. When you go before a judge, that judge won't know if you have a D or an R or an I or a T beside your name. So in order to ensure that the judges are fair and impartial, the races are nonpartisan.
Sure. So the cases, I know I stated some of those cases, and you first of all, how do you run? Are you nominated or do you decide to, how is the process? What happened first?
So in order to be either a state court judge or a superior court judge, you have to have completed law school and then have 7 years of practice in order to qualify to be a judge. And you're not nominated. You actually declare with the state that you want to run for judge once you have those qualifications. And then you have to qualify in March, which involves paying monies and filling out paperwork that's necessary in order to run. So no, you don't have to be nominated.
Okay. So
as long as you have 7 years of experience as an attorney.
Who are your opponents in this race?
So I have 4 opponents in this race. This is an open seat. So the incumbent, Judge Tom Davis, is retiring at the end of 2018. So my opponents in this race are Tracy Mason, John Setzer, John Burgess, and Jason Park. There are 5 of us.
Right. As an immigrant community, this is new to a lot of us. Okay, what do you tell us so that we can come out and vote? What is there for us?
Yes, I will tell you that I believe that the judges on that ballot may be maybe some of the most important people on that ballot. Superior Court judges particularly make decisions that impact us for the rest of our lives. Superior Court judges can take property. They can sentence you to life. They can also take your children in child custody matters. So these are decisions that are going to impact us as a community and as individuals for the rest of our lives. So that's why I believe that those judicial positions are so very important. If you live in Gwinnett County, you must come out to vote in these elections. It is imperative. Local elections are going to impact you more than any other election on that particular ballot. And I tell people, I said, you need to make sure, I'm sure you talked about this earlier, you need to make sure you go all the way down to the ballot. The judges are the last ones on the ballot, but I believe to be perhaps one of the most important and impactful positions on that ballot.
I know there are other opponents, and so what makes you, the best alternative of all those 4 that we as an immigrant community should come out and vote for you?
Well, for one, I'm the only candidate out of the 5 that has split my career handling both civil and criminal matters over the last 16 and a half years. I am the only African-American candidate in this particular race. So culturally, I understand some of the things that the community is dealing with in terms of immigration, in terms of the racial biases that are apparent in our judiciary. So I think that for those reasons, along with others, including my experience, that I am the best fit for this job.
Quay Wesley is on Facebook. Say, hey, Veronica, met you at Walmart with my mom. Love you guys. We'll be voting for you on the 22nd. You go to Walmart.
I do go to Walmart. I go everywhere there are people. And that's another thing. There are, people say, oh, well, don't forget me, or there are no little people to me. So I want to meet people where they are, wherever that is, whether that's Walmart or Neiman Marcus. It does not matter to me. That's why my theme is justice for all. It does not matter what your financial status is. It does not matter your race or your gender or your ethnicity or your pedigree. Everybody that goes in front of a judge is entitled to be before a judge who is fair and impartial. And that's what I pledge and promise to the citizens of Gwinnett County.
I know, Donna, you too, you have opponents in your race. Who are they and how you plan to beat them?
So in the primary for the Democratic Party, I have no opponent. But on the other side, there is 3 people vying for the Republican nomination, and whoever is basically voted on in the primary will be my opponent in November. So I actually go on to November. Unlike the judges, they actually have until May 22nd. Early voting actually starts tomorrow. Tomorrow it starts and it goes until May 18th. So April 30th to May 18th is early voting. If you don't know where your polling location or where you want to find an early voting location, please go to this website. It's www.mvp.sos.ga.gov. So it's www.mvp means my voter page.sos, which is Secretary of State .ga, which is the state of Georgia, and then of course it's a government website, so it's .gov. So go to that website. You're going to put in your first initial, your last name, your date of birth, and the county you're registered in, and that's across the state of Georgia, by the way. And you can pull up all of your information, and once you pull up that information, you can actually get a sample ballot. Mm-hmm. And that sample ballot, you can go and look at each of the candidates that are running and do your research. I want an educated voter as well. I want voters to feel empowered. I want them to feel like they know how the system works and that they have that resources in their hand. Once you pull that, you can pull that ballot down. You can fill out your information before you go to the polling location, and you can actually bring that sample ballot into the polling location. But that's the only thing you can bring. And of course, you need your driver's license. If you're voting in person in the state of Georgia, we have voter ID. So you will need to have some source of voter ID, which is either your driver's license or it could be your passport or government issued ID. So make sure you know which ID you need for voting in person. If you don't want to go to the polls, you can actually request a sample ballot. It's an application and you just fill it out and you send it back to your either the Secretary of State or your local election board, and they will send you a ballot to your house. So you could vote from your house rather than going into a line or going to a polling location.
Veronica, what are some of the cases that will be coming before you if you are fortunate to be elected? And I know we here as an immigrant community, Liberians, Africans, we drive on the road, we commit crime like anybody else. So definitely, if you are elected, there are going to be some Liberians coming before you. What are some of those cases you're going to be handling as a judge?
So I will tell you that I think it's easiest to answer this question in terms of what the Superior Court does not handle. Because if you look at state court's going to handle your traffic cases, it's going to handle your misdemeanor cases. Your recorder's court is going to handle a lot of your traffic and your smaller misdemeanors as well, like shoplifting or misdemeanor marijuana possession. Your civil cases, as well as any type of felony case. So a felony case, and we hear this a lot, but people say, well, what's the difference between a felony and a misdemeanor? A felony case is a case that is punishable by a year or more. A misdemeanor is punishable by a year or less. And so all of your more serious cases are going to be heard by your Superior Court judge. Also, as I mentioned earlier, if you have a divorce, if you have a situation dealing with child custody, if you want to adopt a child, those things are all in the Superior Court as well. Now, a lot of your civil cases are heard at the state court level, but the Superior Court also has jurisdiction over civil matters as well. So there would be some civil matters heard, like your car accidents. You're not going to have your run-of-the-mill traffic ticket or anything like that in Superior Court unless it involves a homicide or something by car. Then that would be at the Superior Court level. But all those domestic cases, all those felonies, anything related to property, if you have a dispute over title to land at all, whether it's commercial or residential, then that would also come before a Superior Court judge.
Okay. So now, and I asked the same question to Donna earlier, is this thing about what are you going to do for us?
Well, that's a really good question. And I'll tell you that what I'm going to do for you is what I would do for everyone. And that is to be fair and impartial. You hear that term thrown around a lot. I'll tell you that Merriam-Webster defines impartial as treating or affecting all equally. What I will tell you is that if you were to come before me as a judge, that I would listen to the law and the facts and make a decision without regard to your race or your gender or ethnicity or anything. There's a reason why Lady Justice is blind, and that is because when you are before a judge, none of those immutable characteristics, or like your gender or your race or your ethnicity, shouldn't matter. It shouldn't matter what your financial status is, whether you're poor or you're rich and can hire the best attorney possible. You're going to have an opportunity to be heard. A lot of people, even though that they're wrong, and I see it a lot as a criminal defense attorney, they want an opportunity to be heard. And if they're heard, then they feel like they've had their day in court.
So there's a question on Facebook. Say, what is the composition, including race and gender, of the current bench and the attorney?
That's a good one.
Okay, so in the 200-year history of Gwinnett County, there has never been a person of color, any color, elected to the Gwinnett County Superior Court bench or state court bench. There are 3 judges that have been appointed by governors at the magistrate court level. There is a judge that has been appointed at the juvenile court level, and there has been a judge appointed at the recorder's court or traffic court level. But there's never been a person of color elected or appointed in Superior or State Court. And that tells you a lot about our judiciary and the powers that be that want to keep the judiciary the way that it is, unfortunately. In terms of gender, there are 10 Superior Court judges. There are 8 State Court judges. And in the Superior Court, there are 4 out of those 10 who are women. And on the state court level, there are 4 out of 8 that are women. And so we have some diversity in terms of gender, but we have a long way to go in terms of any other type of diversity.
Normally, people don't focus on the judicial branch. It's either the executive or the legislative. Why is that, and what can we do as a people to change that?
Well, what I always say, and I find this to be true, that nobody really knows or cares who the judge is until you're in front of one, or your child's in front of one. And I think that's just, a lot of it also goes to a distrust in our judiciary generally. The legal profession has faced a lot of bumps and bruises in terms of confidence in that system. And I think it's because of the injustice that we see a lot of times in our community. So people just say, I was out canvassing earlier, and a young lady told me, well, I'm not going to vote. She said, my vote doesn't matter. She was very young. She was probably between 17 and 21 years old. And she said, I'm not going to vote so you can keep your information. And I pulled her aside because I really wanted to talk to her to find out why she decided that she wasn't going to vote. There is a very little confidence in our judiciary. And I submit to you, I believe that is because people look at our courts, they look at our benches, and if you walk into a courtroom and nobody looks like you, you feel like you don't have a fair chance. So I think that is why. What do we do about it? That's the second part of your question. What do we do about it? I think a lot of it has to be education, particularly from us who consider ourselves as leaders or attorneys or other leaders. We have to let people understand how important it is to elect judges. When you elect judges, they serve pretty much until they're ready to retire, unless they're just really bad and then somebody comes and runs against them and they beat them. But educating the public about how important it is to actually vote, educating the public about the role of the Superior Court judge and the power that those judges have are critical in allowing people and motivating people to come out and vote.
So Donna, tell me about what you're going to be doing as a state representative, how that affects or relate to what Veronica too will be doing.
Well,
what's the link?
The link is that the legislative branch actually makes those laws that the judges will be enforcing. So it is important that we put laws in place that are enforceable and fair, no matter what. And that is I can't stress how important that is, because to give folks laws that they have to figure out based on their opinion is dangerous. And you're still going to have that, right? Because you're going to have biases in the court. That's why a lot of African Americans have a real disdain for the judicial branch. And what they fail to understand, even I remember when the issue was going on with Michael Brown, and so many Black men have been murdered by police officers. And what a lot of the young folks and some of the Black folks just didn't understand is who's your district attorney? Who is policing? What laws are being made? What laws are being made to ensure that you're getting fair representation throughout as balanced as possible? And that's why it matters who is in the legislative branch, because we're the ones that are going to basically put bills on the floor that could eventually become law. And again, you want a good legislator and a good executor as well, because the governor is the executor who's going to basically make that bill become law. So we write the bills. We want to make good bills. Then we want an executor that's going to put it into law. And then when somebody breaks that law, then we have the enforcer. And the enforcer needs to make sure that they have laws that will actually be one that they can rule on properly based on a clear guideline as to what the rulings should be. I'm not an attorney, and I leave that to her. And when she becomes judge, but it's important that we have people that are going to help the entire system of government. It is a system, and anybody know the system, it goes around and around. That's why it's called a system. The system has to work, and that means that all people that are participating in that system is going to be making sure that it works.
So from grade school, we learned that the legislative branch make the law, the judicial interpret, and the executive enforces the law. Give me an example of that, Veronica, if you don't mind.
So let's think about a law that may have been passed. So recently we had the enforcement or a bill which would require a person to wear their seatbelt. Let's just give you an easy example.
Okay.
Right. So not recently, it's been around for a long time, probably since the 80s, but so this is an easy example. So basically the way that bill would come into play at our state capitol, you would have a sponsor, either a person from the House of Representatives or the Senate would sponsor a bill that says, we've had a lot of casualties on our roads that are directly attached to people not wearing their seatbelts. And so what we want to do is we want to propose a bill that will require people to wear their seatbelts, and they would have a penalty if they're found without their seatbelt. So once that bill is written, there's a series of processes that goes down to the Capitol before the bill actually gets to the governor. So it has to pass both houses, both the House of Representatives and the Senate, and then it will go to the governor for signature. So you've got the legislature, which has now written the bill, created the law. Then it goes to the governor for signature, and so he's going to execute the law. And then once Donna is stopped without her seatbelt on, then she would get a ticket, unfortunately, and she would get a court date. And that she would come before a judge at that point in time, who would then interpret the law. Now she should have an opportunity to state her case, either herself or her lawyer, to say, what the evidence is. And then the judge will look at the facts and look at that law and say, well, did Donna really break this law? Was she on public property or private property when they stopped her? Because if she was on private property, then they could not charge her for not having on a seatbelt. So that's where the interpretation comes of that law. So you see that process.
That's brilliant. Now, there's a question here. Why vote for a judge? Why can't the governor make appointment as is done on the federal level?
So the way that appointments work, let's say the judge that whose seat I want to fill decided that he was going to retire early. The way our system is now, if that judge were to retire early, then the governor would go ahead and appoint someone. Now, because he's going to wait until the end of his term, and the judges serve 4-year terms, because this judge is going to wait until the end of his term, that gives an opportunity for people to be elected. I think that we should always elect judges. There are some states that no matter, whether they retire or whatever the case may be, there is an election. There may be an appointment, but then very soon thereafter, they have to have an election. You want to be able to elect your judges, because guess what? If you have a governor who will only appoint a certain type of person, or if you have a Republican governor, guess what? All of your judges are probably going to be Republicans that are appointed. Now, very rarely you will have, it's supposed to be nonpartisan, right? Mm-hmm. But very rarely you may have a Republican who would actually come and appoint a Democrat. But you want, the judges rule at the pleasure of the people, so you want to have that power to actually elect your judges. But
the elections also introduces another problem. That is, people have to support your candidacy, normally with money. And so if someone supports your candidacy, after you have won, you expect something, some favors from you.
I would say that I don't think anybody should expect any favors. What you should expect is somebody who's going to be fair. Me personally, I always want to elect people. I don't like someone else appointing someone who's going to make those decisions that will impact me for the rest of my life. You're supporting the candidacy, you're supporting the vision that you see from that person. You're supporting the fact that their values align with yours. You're supporting the fact that you have a voice in determining who that judge is. So I don't think anybody should expect any type of favors. You just want to be sure that you have someone who is going to make sure that justice is in fact blind.
You want to add something? Go ahead.
I wanted to say, I think the point that Veronica makes is a good point. In the sense that I think that most people that are upset about the system and who actually come out and vote, they're actually trying to make the system right. And so they're trying to find the best person that they feel is going to make the system right. So if more of us that want to make the system right come out to vote, we should get closer and closer to getting the system right. And so I think it's difficult. It is a difficult situation because, judges are, in the context in the state of Georgia, is supposed to be nonpartisan. So it makes it very difficult to campaign as well and become politicians, because then you have to try to get somebody to persuade people to vote for you. And yes, there's money involved. But I think most people that are looking are frustrated by the system and want to have people that are better at making decisions on their behalf by putting them in jail, not looking for anything else than the person's going to be fair, especially in the African American community.
Right. I have a question here. This is focused on Liberia, and our viewers are used to us talking about Liberia. Today is about America, or the elections right here in Gwinnett County. Tell our viewers why this is important and how it relates to Liberia, Cameroon, and other African countries.
60%. What this county has, I think it's almost 300 different languages. A lot of languages. A lot of people come from different places. So the fact that we live in this multicultural county it will prove to you that it is not one that is monolithic. So the folks that are here, you want people, no matter where you're from, and Liberia, I know this is focused on Liberia. Liberians follow that because once you live here, you're now governed by the laws of the United States. As I'm living here, I'm now governed by the laws of the United States. So whatever it is that's going on in this county that we've chosen to live in, that is why it's important, no matter where we're from originally, that we share this, because at the end of the day, we're all in that same boat.
Right. And I think the highest percent of immigrants living in Georgia are right here in this county.
Right here.
Right. So
most of us.
And most of the time, even in Liberia, I don't know how much you know about that, but even in Liberia, where we're a country that was founded by free slaves, so most of the things are, I don't want to use the word borrowed from America, and so we draw most of our power from America. Most of the people that are elected to offices in Liberia sometimes come from here, or being heavily supported by people from the United States. So if we live here and don't participate in the American elections, don't participate in anything at all, we are not well grounded, or we don't even have that push. Because if you come here and learn and also participate and take part in the elections here, the high percent chances that if you go to Liberia, you're going to do well.
Right. And I will say this, if you don't vote, you don't have a voice. If you don't vote, I know we just always hear this, if you don't vote, don't complain. It's that important because we are governed by our laws here, our Georgia Constitution, as well as our U.S. Constitution. It is critical that we are part. We have a duty, we have a responsibility, we have a civic responsibility to participate in this process, because it's bigger than us. We have generations that are coming behind us, and we want to ensure that we have, the three branches of government that are going to be favorable going forward for our kids that are here. Gwinnett County is the most diverse county in the Southeast, and one of the most diverse counties in the country. And so, we have to be a part of this process. I'm not an immigrant. I was born here in the United States, but I helped and handled so many cases involving people from various countries, including Liberia, from all over the world that have come through Gwinnett County. So I see how important it is to be a part of that process.
Right. One issue that Liberians face right now is the end of the temporary protective status, or the deferred, deportation, the DED. So what has been announced is it has ended, but we have like a 12-month. So within that 12-month period, Liberians either have to go back, or you become a citizen, or a regular, or a green card. So that's one issue. So on the state level, and I start with you, Donna, how can you, in Massachusetts, Minnesota, and also in Philadelphia, you have a high push. You have state senators that are helping Liberians to champion this cause. In fact, recently there's a bill from that's being sponsored by this senator from Rhode Island. We don't hear much of that in Georgia.
So once again, because even if they go down to the state capitol right now, they're not going to get any help, because there's not enough people to help them. You have to get people elected in order for them to help you. There is no way for us to do it if we're not elected. So that's the reason why you've got those connections up north, because there is when the Liberians go to those folks, they say, oh, you know what? I need re-election next year.
Yes.
Yeah. So let me listen and do what I need to do here. Guess what? You're going to have no voice, because the folks that are in the state capitol they don't care. A lot of them are very anti-immigrant. So you're not going to get the breakthrough you need as you would. So that's why we're begging you to get out and vote. And those of you that can vote, vote. Those of you that can eventually vote, get your citizenship and register to vote. But those who can vote, do not pass up the opportunity to help make sure that your voices can be heard. The folks that are having the issue of having that status being revoked in a 12-month period, you have the next 6 months, or what is it now? Up to November? What's it now?
That's up to March.
Next 7 months to get out and vote. That is the only. I always go back to the root cause. The root cause is, if you don't vote, you're living by the opinion of other people. Period.
Veronica, how can you stress that enough?
I can't stress it enough. Gwinnett County is what is considered a 287G family county. What that means is if you come into custody in Gwinnett County, immigration is, and you don't have status, immigration is going to be contacted. And they are deporting people left and right. In order to see a change there, you know, as Donna said, there's no way to make that change unless you have people who are in your legislature, which are, you know, immigration friendly. And nobody's saying that, you know, nobody's saying that there shouldn't be laws that relate to immigration, you know, but we want people who are going to make decisions and create laws that, you know, in terms of, especially like DACA or like you said, the other program like DD, that are going to make it easier for people to obtain citizenship and to get green cards, and not harder. Because if we can do that, then that will boost our economy. That will create, you know, better relationships in our families. You have to vote to protect your families. We can't stress that enough, because what happens if dad, you know, is not a citizen, he's an immigrant, but the children are, and dad has to go home, then you got a possibly a broken family there, if they don't all decide to go back to the native country. So I did want to say, in terms of the early voting, we are absolutely encouraging everybody to vote early. Do not let May 22nd get here and you have not voted, because something may happen when you can't get there. And we also have Saturday voting for the primaries this year as well. So you can vote. Donna gave you those dates earlier, April 30th through May 18th. But there's also two Saturdays, May 5th and May 12th, where they're voting from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. So there's no excuse that you can't vote. I'll even give you the address for early voting up until the 14th, and that is 455 Grayson Highway in Grayson, Georgia, 30017. So go vote tomorrow. Go vote this week. That way you got it out of the way, but be an informed voter before you go vote.
I know for me, the 455 Grayson Highway is in Lawrenceville.
I'm sorry, it is in Lawrenceville. Yes.
But I will say this, on Wednesday, I'm doing a family event to vote early. So I'm taking my daughter's going, and my nephew, who was born in the year 2000, turns 18 this year, and he is a registered voter. So he's going to be voting with me on Wednesday. And I need to get it out of the way because I have to continue campaigning. I have to keep asking people to vote.
And if you are in Gwinnett County and you know where the Village Bar and Restaurant is, the voting place is right in that same square. So you can. But that's Gwinnett. What's about other counties? Are voting going on in other counties that you know of?
Oh yeah. And that my voter page, that is not for just Gwinnett. The mvp.sos.ga.gov, that's for anybody. If you put your first initial, your last name, your date of birth, and the county you're registered in, your information for that county will come up. You can find your early voting location from that site. You can pull down a sample ballot. That's only your sample ballot because it's pertaining to the district, to where you live in that county, and it's all your information. So the My Voter page has nothing to do with Gwinnett County. It's statewide. That's why the SOS is Secretary of State. So it's available for everybody.
Give us that website again, because I want people to hear.
www.mvp.sos.ga.gov.
And if you are on Facebook, that's been posted by our guest relations manager, Stephanie. So if you look at that, you will see the website. So early voting starts tomorrow.
Yes.
Now, other Liberians, other immigrants in other states, not Gwinnett, what do you tell them about early voting, the importance to vote, and also to run for office like you?
So there's a page called canivote.org, canivote.org, that when you get to that site, you can basically pull down the state that you are living in, and it will take you to that site. So you can basically pull up your information no matter what state you live in the 50 states that are in this country. So the states are, each state has their own requirements. So it's very important for us to understand, living in the state of Georgia and living in New York State are two different areas, and they require different things. I mean, we have people that come down here and that are really irritated that they're not getting any information mailed to them because they're from New York or from California. Yeah. Well, the state of Georgia is not as accommodating because they're not really trying to get you to vote. So you have to make sure you be the person to know your information. That's why it's important for us to always be giving information to each other that will help us empower each other. And that's one of the things we need to do collectively, no matter what. We have to collectively empower each other. She's running for judge, but let me tell you, I carry her material whatever door I go to, because we're going to work together. Because if we want to accomplish this, we're going to accomplish this together. Mm-hmm. And if we want change to happen, we have to do it together. Mm-hmm. And that is what we are going to do in this county. And when we are elected, we want you to keep us accountable. It is also, we don't want to look bad, and we don't want to make you look bad.
Yeah,
so
that's right. And in terms of running for office, I encourage anybody who wants to run for office to look for training in your location. I know when I started this process, I took training. I attended training that I found to be very helpful, because it may look easy on the outside, but it's not easy. And Donna knows I'm a first-time candidate, and so I've learned a lot along the way. But if you want to see real change, the best way to make that change is to be that change. Be that change that you want to see. And so if there's something that's going on in your community, wherever that may be in the United States or anywhere in the world, if you consider yourself a leader, if you want to see that change, you make it happen yourself. You find out what those qualifications are in your state, in your country, and then you do that homework, and you set yourself up and prepare yourself. Like Donna said, get your friends and family on board, because it is grueling. It is a grueling process. It is, but it is so well worth it. And I consider my candidacy, I consider this an assignment from God. I'm not doing this because I want to do it. I'm not doing this because of some power trip that I want to take. This is my mission. This is my purpose. And so that's why I work 17 to 18 out of 24 hours a day to make sure that this is a reality.
Right. All right. Thank you so much. Now we're about to draw down the curtains. We have a few more minutes, but I want you to, let me start with you, Donna, to make that. If this was your last pitch you were making to voters, what would you say?
In my life, I've never done anything because of personal glory. I've always thought about the right thing. I think that I stand on the shoulders of giants, the people that have come before me, and even the ones that came in boats long time before I could ever be in this spot. And for that, I'm grateful. I cannot tell them thank you. Thank you is not enough. So that is why I believe that I have to step up and continue their journey, because I am the legacy. I am it. And I never wanted to let them down. I have a grandmother that could not read and write. But you know what? Our grandchildren all have been able to read and write. And I know that she would be very proud. Sometimes when I'm on a trip someplace and I'm sitting up in some really nice hotel, and I think my grandmother's never been here. But I hope that she's here and she can see that we've done pretty good. We've got a long way to go. And I'm asking you for your vote. I'm asking you to step up and to stand up and to know that we are running because we think it's the right thing to do, because we want to stand up. We're not trying to get any more glory than we need. We just need you to stand up with us, because no one stands alone. We have to stand together. Again, go to www.electdonnamcleod.com, and please feel free to look at my page and donate as well, because it does take money. But again, I stand on the shoulders of giants, and I'm grateful.
Thank you. Veronica?
I'm the daughter of sharecroppers in North Carolina. I am the granddaughter of sharecroppers in North Carolina. I'm the daughter of blue collar workers. My mom was a seamstress. My dad was a truck driver. So I grew up poor in North Carolina. But one thing that my parents taught me was the value of education, putting God first, and giving back to the community. And in my life as an adult, I have worked hard to give back to the community with the skills that God gave me, which were enriched by my parents. I want to continue to serve the community. I have a servant's heart. This is not about me, as I said before. I was doing okay, practicing law in my little small corner, raising my sons, my three sons here in Gwinnett County. But I received that calling that this is my purpose in life, that God has been grooming me since a child to serve the community as an attorney and ultimately as a judge. So from the time that we're 5 years old, we hear the Pledge of Allegiance. We learn that pledge before we learn much else. The last three words of that pledge are justice for all. I've spent my life working to ensure that everybody has equal access to justice without regard to any factors, including the financial status or pedigree. So I ask that you will look at my website. My website is www.copeforjudge.com. That's COPEFORJUDGE.com. Take a look at what I stand for. Take a look at my life's work. And I ask that you will come out and vote. And I ask that you will come out and vote early. Share on your social media my website. I'm also at Veronica Cope for Superior Court Judge on Facebook and at Cope for Judge on Instagram and Twitter. So again, I'm Veronica Cope, and I ask for your support on May 22nd and starting tomorrow, April 30th.
Thank you so much, and we're glad to have you all. Thank you so much for coming, and it's been a pleasure having you speak to our community. This is the first time in the history of Focus on Liberia that we are focusing on Gwinnett County for these local elections. So this is a milestone in our short history.
Thank you so much. We appreciate the opportunity.
Absolutely. And I hope that people got enough information to make good decisions.
Right. And we'll continue to use our Facebook page for this show so that if there's any question that you have, please feel free to visit Focus on Liberia on Facebook and answer those questions. On those who are watching us by Facebook, again, this is Focus on Liberia. We are focusing on the local elections, Gwinnett County. I want to thank you all for watching and those that participated with the questions. And keep sharing the video and watch it. I want to thank my producer, Mrs. Yasendi Martin Kwele. From the beginning of the show, she was co-hosting. I want to also thank our guest relations manager, Madam Stephanie Setro. Until then, from all of us at Focus on Liberia, we say thank you for joining. May God bless you.
People get ready to have the train.